Hey, audience, how you doing? It's Mike,
Hello.
It's Mitch, and once again, we have a third person on the screen. My buddy, Tim Powers. How you doing,
Mike.
Tim?
Really good, man. Thanks for having me, guys. This is going to be a lot of fun.
It
I get
will.
to play. I can't figure out in this group of three if I am Shemp, Curly Joe, or Joe Dorita. I'm not sure where I fit in yet, but
So you're saying one of us is Larry,
yeah,
and the other one is Mo.
Which
Yeah.
one talks the least?
Probably Larry. That's probably
Probably
you.
Larry.
I'll be that one.
All right.
All right.
And I'll just start smacking you guys around.
I'm sorry, Mo.
Yeah, okay.
Hey,
We just lost
guy.
all your women audiences. Like your entire
Three
female audience
Stooges,
is
I'm
like,
out.
Yeah. Come on.
All right.
now.
Well, hey, Tim.
yes.
You are, and I don't want to, scratch your back too hard, but you are a giant in the industry. You are established. You have experience. Mitch and I.
That
I
much
mean,
is true.
Yeah, I mean, our podcast is all about us being newbies and just trying to find our way and
Yeah.
letting our audience come along with us as we figure stuff out. And
Yeah.
so we're not all about giving all the advice. If you have advice, yay! But we really just want to hear about you and about how you got started in the industry and just kind of
Okay.
your journey, so that we can kind of catch up with you.
You're very kind, Mike, to call me a giant. I in my opinion,
I was talking about
that's,
size, not.
Well, all of us with deep radio voices,
Yes.
But
we did eat pizza together in Dallas, so
it's
you
true,
know,
and we
have
need
stories
to talk
about each other.
that. We need to talk about that place because that place
Oh,
was
man.
heaven on earth.
So
but
good.
dig this, man, and I
I'm
think it was
not
your
jealous
suggestion
at all.
too. I think the fairest way for me to say anything is I am lucky enough to be a full-time working voice actor, right? I'm not, I'm not Billy West. I'm certainly not Mel Blanc. I'm just lucky enough to make a pretty decent living doing what I do. I started behind a microphone, like the first time I ever got behind a microphone professionally was in the late '80s when I took a radio class at a college outside St. Louis, which is where I grew up. 2 weeks after I finished high school, and in 3 weeks I learned everything I knew, everything I needed to know to be on the air and spin records. Like I was still queuing vinyl records
3
in
weeks.
those days. Yeah, in 3 weeks I learned everything I needed to know in order to be competent with the technology. Right, I had to figure out my shtick. I had to figure out the nuances of each format or whatever, and that just comes with experience. But the first time I got behind a microphone and I was voicing commercials back in the announcer days was in the '80s when I was 18 years old. My voice was up here, And, I did that for a few years, never made any significant money doing that. Went to college, graduated with a degree in communication theory from the University of Missouri.
In theory,
wow.
I know how to communicate.
It's pretty much what it is, man. And studied advertising, studied the great advertising guys, and kind of got into comedy. I started doing improvisational theater at an improv studio in St. Louis that was started by some guys who had taken Second City in Chicago directly from Del Close. So they had worked with the same guy who was Belushi and Aykroyd's and Bill Murray's teacher, Tina Fey's teacher, the mentor.
Wow.
Never met the guy himself personally past while I was training. But I got schooled up in that, and that was my crash course in acting because I did not want to be. I like the studio, the actor kids in high school. They were dorks. I didn't want to be one of them. They were,
Hey, come on now.
come on.
Back off.
But as I have said before, if I knew I was going to be one of the few straight guys hanging out with all those girls, I would have been all over it. But I was a punk. What do I? When you're 17 years old, you know everything. So I got into this improv theater group, and I just fell in love with the camaraderie and the collaboration and the spirit of agreement and the concepts of improvisation changed my life. I released control. I learned how to yes and the universe, which is philosophical and technical in improv. We can talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was also writing stand-up. They're two very different muscles, but I was writing stand-up. And after a couple of years, I had kind of ridden that train in St. Louis, Missouri, as far as I could go. So I moved to L.A.
Because that's what you do.
Because that's what you do, right? Like, being the funniest guy in St. Louis, Missouri is like being, the best race car driver in Omaha. Who cares? God loves St. Louis and Omaha, but, if you want to make a living, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s, you had to be in L.A. So I got there. I started studying with the Groundlings, which is the theater that gave us Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig, Lorraine Newman, Pee-wee.
Yeah.
They all came out of the Groundlings. And I studied there for a little while. I also studied when they opened it, the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater, which was a theater.
Okay.
It was an improv theater started by Amy Poehler and three of her friends, one of whom is the grandson of Three Stooge Joe Besser. It's true. Also whom I never met. But
there we go. We just lost the last woman that was listening.
Sorry. Ladies, story of my life. And, I was really having fun with that and mildly successful. I worked with some amazing, talented people, some of whom have like 5 or 6 Netflix specials in stand-up now. Some have former cast members of Saturday Night Live. Some have been nominated for Emmys and worked with Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin on their show. These are people that I stood elbow to elbow with and performed with. And one day I was doing a set at the Comedy Store on Sunset, and this old 80-something guy comes up to me and goes, "I want to talk to you. My house." Like,
yikes.
Okay. And we talked for a little bit, and I vetted him to make sure it wasn't going to be weird, right? Mm-hmm. And so we I go up to his house up on Mulholland, which was a great sign.
Yep.
And it turns out this guy was a joke writer for Burns and Allen. Like, he wrote jokes in the radio days. So he wrote for Jack Benny, and he wrote for George Burns and Gracie Allen. He was one of the producers on an old TV show called The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis.
Okay,
which is a long-running 50s-era sitcom. He worked on Gilligan's Island. He's a director for Flipper, right? And so wrote an episode of The Monkees. And he's like, "I'll take you under my wing." His name was Stanley Zach Cherry, if you want to look him up on IMDb.
Okay. Is Zach Cherry one word, or is that his middle name?
No, it's 2 words. Zach Cherry.
Zach Cherry.
And he's like, "I think you're funny. I think you're talented. I think you're great. But with that face, you're never going to be a leading man." And he's not wrong. Like, one of my jokes when I was doing stand-up is I always wore a black jacket on stage, and I was a little chunkier than I am right now. And I used to come out and say, "Well, you guys remember who I am so that you don't have to tell people you look like a guy who is the product of a lost weekend between Fred Flintstone and Fonzie." Right? I mean, whatever. So, and he was right. But I loved to play characters. I loved playing, like, weirdos and heroes, and I loved being the CEO and the guy who was getting fired, and I loved just playing a variety of characters that I didn't want defined. Like, if you look at me, I'm a character actor. If you look at me, I'm like William Frawley. I'm a character actor. You're like, "Oh, it's that guy that plays that character."
Yeah, you've got
everything.
a very George Wendt-ness about you.
Yeah, right. George Wendt will never be anything other than George Wendt.
Yeah, but he was great at being George Wendt.
And he was right. He was fantastic, right? So I want to play other stuff. Why can't I be Tarzan? Why can't I be, a pirate? So I started looking into voice acting, and I trained with a woman named Lori Tritel, who was an amazing voice actor. She's gone now. She was the imaging voice on Playboy television.
Oh, wow.
And I took a bunch of classes with her at the legendary Buzzy's recording studio on Melrose in L.A., which was amazing. It's where they record like everything, and they have autographs of every celebrity who's ever recorded there. And I remember just walking around, and they won't let you take pictures, but I remember seeing this thing signed by Soupy Sales, and I'm like, this is the coolest place I've ever been in my life.
Soupy Sales.
Yes.
Mitch is like, who's that?
Who's Soupy Sales?
Us
By
old
the way,
guys.
I'm
us
doing
old
that
guys know
the
who Soupy
whole
Sales is.
this whole interview. I'm doing that. You said Flipper. I was like, oh, Flipper.
You know-
But
Flipper,
please,
Flipper.
please continue.
Flipper
Yeah.
was a dolphin, just so you know.
Yeah, Flipper was a TV show. It was a sitcom about a dolphin.
I got that one. That's
Okay.
the reference I've
Okay.
gathered so far.
He's so cute, Mike. I can see why you
I
keep
know.
him around.
You just want to teach his little
He's
teeth, don't you?
he's adorable.
You guys.
So I took some classes, and it was, we're still kind of in the analog days before people have home studios and stuff. And years pass, and I keep going with the comedy thing. I run my own improv troupe called Box Office Poison, which I'm particularly proud of. Which is a great name for a group of actors, right?
Yeah.
Loved it. Like one of the theater owners is like, I am not promoting a show called Box Office Poison. I'm like,
Yeah, but in the theater, well, I guess there is
got
a
it.
box office in theater too. I was
Yeah,
thinking more
yeah.
movie
yes,
box
there
office,
is.
but
There
yeah,
very much is. And I'm like, you're a theater owner and you don't understand irony. Anyway, we were great. We were like, 7 really strong, like in each other's heads, beautiful team. So that band broke up, and I kind of wandered around a little bit. And then one day I was at a party at one of my friend's house, and most of my friends at that time were writers, actors, comedians. I had a lot of friends in the comic book industry, producers, directors, and I was at the party, and TV was on, and something was on, and they turned down the sound. And so 5 or 6 actors were just dubbing whatever the hell was on television and coming up with a story around that. And one of the hosts of the party comes up, puts his hand on my shoulder, he goes, "You're really good at this, man. You need to get into voice acting." And that guy was a director currently on staff at the time. He was currently on staff at Disney. And he kind of got me pushed and got me where I needed to go and introduced me to some of the right people, so that I could actually take the acting skills that I had developed and bring them into the voice acting world. And after that, it was off like a shot. Like I have done voice work for Disney. I was in Final Fantasy. I was in Genshin Impact. I recorded a bunch of ADR work when I lived in LA, and built a really nice. I was lucky. I built a nice career, and I had enough of an income that when the pandemic hit, I could pivot a little bit, and I could start teaching all the people who bought these microphones on eBay. And
Hey.
I don't know how to use them. And so I was able to keep working when everybody else was shut down. And at the
Coach
same
Tim.
time, I could audition. So, I say this a lot, that success in any entertainment industry, whether it's voiceover or comedy or writing or acting, is pure unadulterated luck. It's just luck. But
we've heard that before.
luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity. If you have the opportunity without the preparation, you don't know what you're doing. And if you have the preparation without the opportunity, that's kind of on you. So your job, as you guys have indicated, you call yourselves beginners. Your job is to train up to be the best actor that you can be and get in front of as many people as possible, which is why, Mike, I was delighted to see you at Dallas, getting in front of people, introducing yourself, fearlessly, presenting fearlessly in front of people, and, if I might add, doing pretty good work.
Hey, thanks, man.
It's all right. So
Tell us about. Let's pivot and go into. Let's go into.
where we
I don't know where that came
going?
from.
where are we going? Yes.
Well, let's
okay.
go into improvisation. That is your
All
shtick.
right,
That is your thing. That is what you are good at and what you are known for, as far as in the coaching arena.
In the
And,
coaching
so why don't
arena,
you tell
yeah.
us a little bit more? Maybe go into a little bit more about the yes and what
No,
that
okay.
means for our listeners.
You know what I
and-
thought? Based on your name, it's like
Yeah.
you can almost it's like TimProv or something. You know what I'm saying?
That is entirely what it is called.
I just made that up
quite
off the-
literally, Mitch. I quite literally own the trademark on TimProv.
I just made that up though.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't,
Because he did.
Oh.
because I did.
And he trademarked it.
The
So
the
don't
connection
go trying to
was
take
obvious.
that as your own, buddy. Pal.
Don't be the jerk who took timprov.com. I don't know who he is. I've offered him money and he won't budge.
Oh, no.
So here's the thing. I've been coaching for a good long time. I've worked with some tremendous talent who launched into this industry, and many of the students that I worked with have never been an actor before. And when you do something for the first time and it's new, you're awkward, you're stiff, you're trying to do it exactly the right way, you're trying to hit all those notes. And acting is about being natural, and it's hard to be natural when you're concentrating on everything you're supposed to be doing, right down to your movements. So, you guys have heard the phrase, you're in your head. You're thinking too much.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
not acting,
Yep.
right? Well, improv requires you to be present in whatever moment you have. You have no control over what happened in the past. You have no control over what's about to happen. All you have is that particular moment. And there's nothing more authentic and truthful than living heartbeat to heartbeat. And I got thinking about how improv affected my life and took that control factor away from me. And I got thinking about some really talented actors that I've worked with and how improv could help them. And I quit sending them to other schools. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just figure out how to do this online.
That's the way you do it.
That's
Come to
right.
me.
You play the guitar on the MTV.
Yeah.
And so
Again, Mitch is like, I don't
Mitch,
know
that
what's
was a
going
song
on.
from the
That's
80s.
a song
It used
from
to
the
be on
80s.
Oh,
used to be on MTV,
Used to be on the
which was a
MTV when they played the music on the MTV.
Oh, I just thought you were talking about MTV, which I know very well.
No, not the reality show channel. No, this was like a radio station, but it had little movies. And
I was
Mike,
alive.
It
for that
actually
part.
stood for music television. See what they
It's
did
true.
there? See what they did there?
It's
And
true.
they played music videos. And this
Now-
one music video actually sung about the MTV.
Your
It became
age
famous.
is
And-
exhausting to me right now. I'm feeling like I can't
You need
get
a
out
nap
of
from
your
us?
bed or
Us
something.
old
Well,
folks.
hold on, Mitch, because it gets worse. If you wanted to enjoy television in those days, usually your television came with a tiny little speaker about the size of a Campbell's soup can, and it sounded terrible. But you could, at the time in the early days of the MTV, and Mike, maybe you remember this, you could wire the cable box that came with your MTV into your home stereo system so that you could enjoy MTV in full glorious stereo. And it actually improved the sound of all of those crappy songs that they played on MTV.
I was
So-
never that smart, and I don't think my father would have let me do that.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know. If anybody gets nostalgic about MTV, let me remind you what it was really like. You sat there for hours going, well, maybe the next one's better.
Yeah. Hey,
That's
look.
how I felt about
Hey, look. It's
Total
George
Request
Michael's
Live.
Faith
But
again for the second time in the last 2 hours.
No. So, improv, right?
we're on a path.
Yes.
The entirety of performing improv, the lessons that you learn when you are training in improv and the things that it sharpens you to do so that when you're on stage and prepared to do this are listening and being flexible and being able to come up with multiple choices right away. And it's just training your neurons to think a different way and release control. And it's helped a lot of actors. There's a cat right now that I worked with who was just cast in a major video game, like major, Universal property video game, and he's the lead. And I worked with him like 4 years ago. And improv really got him where he needed to go. The guy is an amazing actor, but he wasn't 4 years ago. Being able to be flexible, find the scene, and really be present in that moment, improv helped him be in that moment because he didn't have to worry about the script. He could be himself or his own character playing
especially
in
in
that
video
moment.
games, right?
Right. Because if you think about, like Meisner's definition of acting, right? Meisner's definition of acting is behaving in a truthful manner under imagined circumstances. That's the entirety of our job, whether we're selling tires or, shooting Nazis in World War II, or we're narrating a medical piece on epidermolysis bullosa, whatever. It's a scene. It's the acting stuff that we do. And so the more detailed you can create that scene and play around within it, the more authentic your performance is. Dude, I mean, there's improv schools all over Dallas. Get in one. They're awesome.
Get in there. Come on, Michael.
The friends that I made doing improv in 2001 are still some of my dearest and closest friends today. One was the officiant at my wedding, which quickly turned into a roast, but that's how it goes.
When you have a comedian officiate your wedding.
And your best man is a comedian. The best man at my wedding, by the way, if you're a voice acting D&D nerd, the best man at my wedding was the producer and director for Critical Role.
No.
Yeah, Sax Carr.
Wow.
Yeah, one of my dearest friends. He and I were a double act in L.A. for a while. We were a stand-up double act for a while.
That's the guy. Okay, yeah, I know. When we were talking at One Voice, you were talking about your stand-up act, your dual, your partner act. And I couldn't
Powers
remember who it was.
We were funny. Anyway, not a lot of work for double acts these days. But the stuff that I created with Sax was some of the most creative and fun stuff I've ever done in my life. Anyway, so the concept of yes and, right, becomes a mantra in your day-to-day life. It is the essence of living in the moment, because we live in stimulus and response, right? Mm-hmm. Everything that from the minute we wake up, it's stimulus response. And the concept of yes and means, yes, that stimulus comes to you, you accept whatever information you're given, and you add to it. You just keep the narrative going. And, right? The opposite of yes and is no but.
Right.
Life goes a lot easier when you yes and stuff, right, than when you no but stuff.
I have noticed.
I've seen people do that in improv, where it's somebody will be riffing on something, and then someone will come in and basically say, "That's not how it happened," and go a different direction, and
it
just
screws
does
the
not
entire
feel
scene,
right?
right?
Yeah, exactly.
It screws everything. It makes your partner look like an idiot. So in a good improv cast, your job is not to show off how clever and how smart and how, what this scene needs? More me, right? Your job as an improv cast member is to make the other guy look as good as possible. Mm-hmm. I've been on cast with people that I personally hated off stage, but my job is to make them look good. Yeah. And we're there collaborating,
So, have you noticed that it made your life better? You said you just, in general, do you think it kept you more positive? Because you also get to choose, and I'm going to react better to this, and I'm going to choose a better path on this. Not just
and I'm going to I'm going to quit trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. I'm going to let the universe give me gifts and let me improvise around those gifts, whether then I'm going to do what I'm going to do come hell or high water. When I got into voice acting, I didn't know that I'd make a bulk of my income doing ADR. Right? I didn't know what I was going to be doing. I thought I'd be doing like car commercials and cartoons or whatever. But ADR came knocking, and I'm good at it, and I ain't going to say no to that kind of money. Mm-hmm. To get paid to be behind a microphone, any day behind the microphone is better than any day behind the counter at a gas station.
Amen. Amen.
And if you are working at a gas station, that is a noble profession, and you have my total respect. Just know that if you want to get out of it, voice acting is a good way to do it.
Hey, do you guys sell like those condoms, but they're like fake and they're like a
the
joke?
rice paper. Here you go.
Okay.
Yeah, they're $17 a piece.
What do I do? Do I lick it and then put it on? How does that work?
Perfect. We did it.
Yeah.
I stumped you.
Actually, what we just did, Mitch, was a pretty standard improv scene.
I know. I set you up because I wanted to make you look good, Tim.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, you do it yourself.
And look, Tim, you look good.
You look
good.
It's Ozempic like everybody else, man.
Perfect.
Well, hey, we like to sometimes do a little playing around at the end of our thing, and normally what we do is we do what we call Chat GPT roulette, which is we go to chat, and I know AI sucks in voiceover, but I mean for some things we let it mess around for us.
We're going to play an improv game. All right.
That's what I was going to ask. Is if we could, instead of doing ChatGPT, if you could let us play an improv game for the last 5 or so minutes of this podcast.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's see. Here's what we're going to do. The three of us are going to tell us. We're going to tell a story one word at a time. And okay, so it's going to go me, Mitch, Mike, which is how it is on my screen. Me, Mitch, Mike, back to me. And we're just going to tell a story. I need an idea of I need a premise for the story. Give me a holiday. Any holiday.
Halloween.
Day.
It's coming up.
Halloween it is. Halloween's the first thing I heard. All right. We're going to tell a story about Halloween. Okay?
All right.
And our job is to create sentences, paragraphs, concepts, one word at a time. So I'm going to say a word, Mitch is going to say a word, Mike's going to say a word, and we'll create a sentence that way. Now, guys, here's what this means. It means you have to be attentive to the words that are coming and be reactive to where the sentence is going. You can't drive the bus. The bus drives you. Yes, Mr. Leszewski.
I've already come up with a whole story.
Beautiful. That's not going to help us at all.
No, that's not. Yeah.
Just kidding.
Not going to help us one bit.
I'm that kid in class, by the way. Okay, here we go.
I know. Dude, I've in every improv cast I've had, right? Just before I walked on, I remember one time I was in LA and I was walking on stage and this woman turns to me and goes, "Remember that stuff we did last week? Let's do it again." And I looked her right in the eye and I'm like, "No."
I thought that was going to go worse, by the way. So that's
There's always someone like Mitch in the group.
Oh, God dang it.
That woman's now
have
that woman is
elephant.
Right. Yeah, there's always somebody who's got like the funny word locked and loaded, and it's always like either obscene or has a K in it because if you know your Neil Simon, words with K's in them are inherently funny.
Oh,
okay. So, Mitch, are you clear on what we're about to do? Just
one word story.
One word story.
One word at a time.
Very good.
I've played this thing.
All right. So, this
is
a
story
about
Halloween.
One
day
The
demons
crept
out
of
the
crypt
and
stalked
many
children
but
they
were
scared
and
confused
about
demons.
I think that's our story. I think
the
that's
demons
great.
were scared.
Yeah,
I
I
know,
think the demons were
children
scared
were
about
scared
demons.
and confused about demons. Yeah.
Whatever, but we got it right.
Yeah.
But here's what was really cool. The three of us just kind of fell into this scene, right? And like we're like three nerds over campfires telling this story one word at a time, and it was great. And so, like Mike, you had this flash of panic where your brain kind of locked for just a second, and it went, "Oh no!" And it was because you didn't trust your instinct. You knew what word was coming, and you were trying to like your brain was like flipping for the right word, but it was there.
I do
It was
that on
there.
a daily basis, trying to
I know,
actually
man,
talk
and it happens.
myself.
But the more that you do improv, the more improv beats that out of you, and you're just present in everything. It's really a cool thing.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Just the
Right,
tip.
because there's so many things, man. I've improvised entire movies. There's there's so many cool things that you can do. There's little short form games like we play here, like you see on Whose Line Is It? Right, these little 5-minute games where you just play and Wayne Brady shows off that he's from another planet.
So
There's
good.
also long form improv, which is really cool, where there's like this long, twisty, weird, dreamlike narrative. There's a show on Netflix right now called Middleditch and Schwartz, and it's these two guys who just improvise an entire hour of just stream of consciousness weirdness, right?
And they're
but
different
it's brilliant,
characters,
and it's
right?
clever, and it's funny.
hilarious.
And those guys are so in each other's heads. It's just brilliant. So those are two fine examples of well done improv that anyone can see at home. If you'd like to do some improv yourself, feel free to visit timprov.net. That's timprov.net.
We love the shameless plugs. That's timprov.net.
Timprov.net.
Timprov.net. I'm Terry Gross.
We'll
Welcome
do this
to
for
Fresh
the next
Air. My guest today is Uncle Floyd from the Uncle Floyd Show of the 1980s.
Well, hey, Tim, it has been an absolute
Sorry, Mitch.
blast.
I'm out of here, pal. I'm fresh out.
You've lost him. You've lost the boy. He's no longer with us. He's screaming and running away.
But no, hey, excuse me. Sorry. Yeah.
Mike does
I'm getting
improv
over
and then
being sick.
coughs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've got the worst thing a voice actor can have, and that's a cold.
Oh, dear.
Sickly young man.
Yes, I know. But anyway, we'll get off of that, and we will just once again
There
sip
you
the
go.
water and say thanks,
fresh.
Tim. Really
Dudes.
appreciate you, and let's
Thank
do
you,
this
Tim.
again because you're. A
I would
blast.
love it. It'd be super fun.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Recurring guest Tim Powers.
I would
Yeah.
love that. All right,
So
guys.
nice
All
to
right.
finally
Well,
meet you.
thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yep. Hope
I'll see
everyone
you
else
in
out
10
there has had
minutes.
fun too, and keep on listening. And go
Bye,
to
y'all.
timprov.net. Right? Did
Are we
say
still
that right?
recording? That was fucking terrible.
Yeah.